Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk about Battlefield. I've got some wonderful, silky smooth, 60 FPS, ultra PC Battlefield 1 gameplay for you guys, thanks to my glorious new GTX 1070 from Zotac Amp Edition. Thing looks super sexy in my PC, and it is absolutely annihilating Battlefield, at least on 1080p anyways. So, let's talk about the human element of Battlefield. Let's talk about the player element. As you guys can tell from the title of this video, Battlefield 1's real problem is the players. Now, the core Battlefield community, pretty much since the days of Battlefield 3, has been constantly, up in arms with DICE about their need to find ways to implement mechanics, gameplay mechanics into Battlefield to encourage people to do several things. Essentially to focus on the core objectives in the game. The core objectives can include playing the objective, whether you're playing Conquest or Rush or whatever it may be. Playing your role. If you're a medic, throwing out heals. If you're a support gunner, throwing out ammunition. If you're a sniper, actually using your spot scope and your spotting abilities to actually spot enemy targets for the team to, give them a better situational awareness. In the case of the assault class, really using your RPGs, your heavy-hitting artillery to take down armor. This has always been an issue with the game. People hop in, and what most often ruins your Battlefield experience? Well, it's when you have a really bad match because people aren't focusing on this set of core objectives. So people have always looked at DICE and said, DICE, you gotta do something. You gotta really change the way people think about this game and really get them to focus on these core objectives. It'll just be better for everyone. I'm not disputing that. I completely agree. Now, DICE has tried to implement things throughout the years to do just that. They gave us a comm system, allowing us to issue callouts and commands to players on our squad, whether it be calling for a healer, calling for ammunition. In the case of BF1 now, we can call for reinforcements. We can tell people to get in vehicles. Of course, we still have the sort of commander ability. The leader of the squad can issue direct orders, and your team will earn more points if they listen to those orders, say capping or defending a point in Conquest. So they've done a lot to try and trigger all of that. And in BF1, they've even introduced a new scoring system for capturing points to try and encourage people to play the objective. Before we go any further, though, let's talk about how, in my opinion, Battlefield is a victim of its own success. And I think this is a huge part of why all of these systems haven't really had the effect that a lot of players were hoping for. I think they work to some degree, but I think for the majority of people who play the game, they're just pointless menus that they never end up using. And in many instances, frankly, on a regular basis, those of you who play Battlefield daily, whether it be BF4, BF3, or, now your time with the BF1 Alpha, will recognize the lack of people, the consistent lack of people playing the roles, playing the objective, regardless of these implementations that have been put in place since Battlefield 4. The thing is, Battlefield has become an incredible sandbox multiplayer experience. Now I'm not talking about a sandbox in the idea of Minecraft, a sandbox in the idea that the player has a large-scale environment, the sandbox, and the developers have given them a bunch of tools. Those tools can include any of the weapons and gadgets that are equipable within their given class. They can also include things that are available on the map, like tanks and biplanes and vehicles and, jeeps and ATVs and horses and so on and so forth. These are all the tools that the player is given to essentially play in the sandbox. Now, those tools can be incredible modifiers when you're focusing on the core objectives, when you're going for those points, when you're supporting your team, and you can have some unbelievable Battlefield moments that are created by a combination of those tools, the sandbox, and your willingness to participate in those core objectives. Here's the other side of that, though. The potentially negative side effect is that all of those tools on their own are a ridiculous amount of fun. Whether we're talking about a long-range scope sniper rifle, a biplane, a bomber, a horse with a sword, all of those things in their own right are a lot of fun. And a lot of players get caught up having a lot of fun using those tools inside of the sandbox without focusing on the core objectives. This is pretty much Battlefield's problem wrapped up in, a couple 25 sentences or so. And it's a very difficult issue to overcome. I think no matter how much you encourage the player to go in and you know, and focus on the objective and heal their teammate. Hey, look, this guy's yelling at me to heal me. Whoa, dude, I'm gonna get more points if I capture the objective. Is that really enough, though, to distract someone from having an amazing time doing stunts with an ATV or driving a horse through a burning building, cutting people's heads off, nowhere near any of the objectives that actually need to be captured? I don't think it is. You know, you really are trying to influence an individual at that point. You're basically trying to tell them, stop having so much fun over there and come over here and try and have fun. It's human nature to just have a good time when we play video games. That's the point of video games, right? Is to have fun. So people are attracted to what is most immediately fun. And in the case of Battlefield, it's not focusing on those core objectives. It's just toying around with the tools inside of the sandboxes that DICE have went ahead and built for us. That, in my opinion, guys, is the core issue that Battlefield has. Now, as I said, in BF1, they've implemented a new scoring system for capturing points. So in something like Conquest, you're really encouraged to go out and actually play the objective to capture and hold those points for your team. You're going to get a huge amount of points, and just about all of my level ups in the game have happened after I was done capturing a point. You get an insane amount of experience and points earned for your team. The thing is, we still have playing your role, right? You know, how are they going to further encourage people to play their role? Well, BF1 actually has an answer to that. The issue is inside of the beta right now, and I think even for the rest of the beta weekend, we're not going to be able to see whether or not that actually has an effect, because people don't know about it. Because DICE hasn't created any sort of micro tutorial for the beta. They haven't done anything to make the player aware of how they level up their class. For those of you who don't know, maybe you figured out by now, plenty of people still haven't. I was playing the game this morning to record footage, and people still were asking how they level up their class. There's a new medal system in place. These medals act as a series of objectives and challenges that are specific to each of the classes. So in order to level up your, say, assault or support class, you need to complete the medal that is given to you for said class. That might require you, for the support class, to get a certain number of suppression assists for your squad, or to deploy a certain amount of ammo. The same thing said for the medic class. Revive 50 people, throw out 20 medkits, do this much healing overall in your squad. It's an amazing idea, and I think it will genuinely encourage people to play their roles accordingly. I think we'll see plenty of people playing the medic class now, like going out spam happy, throwing out heals all over the place once they realize the only way they're going to unlock all of that cool kit, all those cool guns inside of that class is to actually play that role. They're gonna have to play that role. It's as simple as that. People are gonna have to heal. It's mandatory. If you want to get more weapons for your medic class, you have to heal people. They've made it mandatory. I think that is incredibly smart. It's restrictive, there's no doubt about that, but I think it's a necessary restriction that the franchise absolutely needs. Again, they've done nothing in the beta to make people aware of this, therefore people are just running around using the starting weapons, not really being encouraged or influenced by said medals. So I'm hoping, I'm going to see how things go with the rest of the beta, but I'm hoping that when the full game goes live, that medal system is going to seriously influence people into playing their role. Now, you still have all the tools in the sandbox, you still have plenty of ways for the player to get distracted. But I'm hopeful that these medals will, you know, sort of be the starting point. They'll be the biggest influencer, and they will steer people towards focusing on the core objectives a little bit more, since they're already caught up in one of the core objectives, which is playing their role appropriately. You'll hope that everything after that will sort of fall into place. I think, at the end of the day, that all of the tools, the toys, we should say, in the Battlefield sandbox are actually incredibly fun when you do focus on the core objectives. It just takes a little bit more effort. So if DICE can encourage players to focus on that effort, I think they might have a solution. Again, we don't really know. We need to wait for the game to come out. We need to see how things go a month after launch. But I'm happy with the decision that DICE has made, and I think it just might be the influence that they need to change the way we look at Battlefield when it comes to the mental and psychological aspect of individual players. Time will tell, my friends, and I would very much like to have you guys, those of you who have been long-time Battlefield players, you know, let me know what systems you think have worked for DICE over the years? What systems have had an influence? What systems haven't had an influence? Share your thoughts, and if there's anything that you'd like to see DICE influence, maybe you have a personal opinion on a mechanic that you think would help drive more objective play, so on and so forth, let me know. Again, take a look at what's available in Battlefield 1, you know, the new scoring system for capturing points, as well as the medal system. Give me your thoughts on that. Maybe some of you aren't even aware of its implementation yet. I'm really excited to see how it pays off down the road, if it does. And I'd also like to hear from the new players. Those of you guys who just started playing Battlefield, I plan on making a bunch of noob tips series for Battlefield because I think this is something that is lacking. People don't recognize that there are actually people playing Battlefield who don't fully understand the game and how things work. So as a new player, what confuses you most about Battlefield? You know, what questions do you have that seem to go unanswered again and again and again? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm going to make use of those questions and crafting those guides when Battlefield finally launches come October. Thank you guys so much for watching. Anything else from me, feel free to throw it down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.